It's raining today. Good morning, Internet. How are you? I hope you're having a lovely day. I want to talk about these little children in adult bodies and what happens when you decide to just leave them alone for a while. Now, I know you've heard the same systematic speech of no contact, low contact, gray rock, or whatever. But from my perspective, I just want to share what I've experienced when I decided to not talk to the people in my life that were toxic. I just like calling narcissistic people toxic people because, I don't know, it's just something when you say narc, it makes it sound like there's some slew-footed eagle or something. I don't know. It just makes them sound like they're creatures. I still think they're human. They still live in society. They haven't gone and run off into the mountains and decided to eat like raw mountain goat and stuff, But they are toxic people. They're entitled toxic people. And I am not religious. Spiritual, but not religious. So I don't like saying that they're demons either. I just think they are a product of extreme loneliness, desperation, and abuse. No one is perfect and everyone has a tragedy, right? But some people decide to live that tragedy for the rest of their lives instead of, putting on their big girl or boy pants and getting over it. So from my experience, what happens when you leave them alone for a while? I don't know. It's been really weird because when I first started this channel, I really was observant to how I decided to evolve from being a doormat to a doorbell. I will do a video on that later because that was actually some very wise words a woman gave me in a coffee shop one day. And I only want to talk about it in a sense that this is not just a romantic angle, for me. These are toxic friends. These are toxic family members, very intimate ones, the inner circle kind. And these are also toxic lovers. And in the past couple of years, I've just started to clean house immensely. I just didn't have a choice because I got to the point where it was grating on my mental health so much. I finally heard the small voice that says, why don't you just take care of yourself for a while? Why don't you just not choose them, but choose you? And I listened to that voice, and now I'm here talking to you. Hopefully you'll hear that voice. But I think I was at my breaking point. So what happens? Well, I can tell you from the toxic friendship angle that there will always be some kind of link between you and your old toxic friends. They will find you somehow, some way. I cut out a lot of old toxic friends, a lot of them, because either they were toxic, their boyfriend was toxic, and it was kind of poisoning the well, so to speak. We grew apart. We couldn't be transparent and cool with each other anymore. And I just didn't respond anymore to when they tried to contact me. I just basically left everything either on read or I blocked them. And this was not to be vindictive. It was just like, you no longer serve my purpose of being a better person for the rest of the world. And I can no longer make you better because you don't want to be, right? So I found that my toxic friends, either through a mutual coworker, former or present, friends, social media, they will still try to find you, right? Toxic people get really big mad when they can't use you anymore. And friends are no different. And so using you can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be whatever, but they want to use you. And they want to see, since you cut them off and gave them no oxygen, what you're doing, right? And I just found that hilarious because, of course, in my social media, I've had multiple toxic people, even though I block them, still try to get another account and try to see what I'm doing or whatever. The nature of what I do, people can still kind of find me. I'm anonymous here, but not elsewhere. And they still will try to find you. So I found that when it comes to friends, it's best to act like they don't exist and keep doing the best that you can to be your better self. I know I did do a post about how to get rid of a narcissist permanently. I want to redact that. You can never really get rid of these people permanently if you are an amazing individual. Now, they'll keep their distance, but they're still watching you, right? They're still kind of like that lurking predator in the bushes, but you're surrounded by bright lights and, cannons, so they can't come close, but they're still watching you from a distance. When it comes to family members, I have found that depending on your strength, depending on your independence, depending on how much of an awesome individual you are, basically, if you have your shit together, very rarely does the quote unquote flying monkeys in your family come to press you, right? They'll watch you from a distance, but they know for a fact that you have your shit straight and they have nothing to go on, especially if, they have the social worth of gnat poop, right? I've had family members when I was a child berate me, belittle me, call me everything under the sun. Now that I'm older, I realize it was just because my light shone brightly and they were trying to control that. I'm not saying that they're out in the clear for that, but once you understand how NPDs work, you see that, when they love great energy, right? And if you have good energy, they don't want to share it, right? But they can't come down on you so hard because you'll rebel, right? So I have family members like that who saw that I was talented or whatever. And, they just decided that they were going to make me feel like I was the bottom of their shoes so that I could be easily controlled. Now that I can't be controlled and I don't mind basically telling them how pathetic they are to their face, nothing gets a family member more butthurt than knowing that someone has more than them or doing better than them, and they can prove it, and they can literally walk into these people's worlds and shatter it. So I do have a few relatives who still try to be nosy, who still try to look around, who still try to do whatever. And I'm like this, as long as you're positive and you don't bother me, we're great. We are so great. It's okay. You can just watch from the nosebleeds. That's where you belong anyway. Now, when it comes to love interests, I find that the most humorous is that the love interest, with the exception of one where I had to leave, and I did a video on that, I had to leave because of the situation of my safety. The rest left me, So I find that very interesting is that when you're like, okay, well, if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And if you want to be king of the hill, you can be king of the hill by yourself or with whomever is going to ride your jock, I guess. And so narcissistic people, when they leave you and you're just like, okay, don't let the door hit you with the good Lord split you. They don't like that either. They don't like your silence. I know I've said this before, that silence is the best remedy for narcissistic people, toxic people, but I just didn't realize how powerful it was until I just decided that I wasn't going to talk to anyone for a year. I did. I know that sounds weird. I've had plenty of love interests who basically orbit around me, and I'm literally silent. I act like they don't exist. If they say something positive, I don't respond. If they say something negative, I don't respond. They're just unimportant to me. And they don't like that. So now it's gotten to the point where their sphere of influence, or the flying monkeys, as you call them, are now trying to have me reminisce on how fun it was hanging out with them and how fun it was to laugh with them. And I was just like, I understand, you flying primate. I completely understand what you're trying to do, because deep down inside, you're a little bit of a weak sauce too. I know. But you know what? I will just be very plain and say, no, I'm not speaking to this person, and you don't deserve an explanation. Nothing hurts and bothers and irritates a flying monkey / narcissist more than saying no and then refusing to give an explanation, because that explanation gives them a doorway, right? And so I've had plenty of people trying to subconsciously and passive aggressively, get me to speak to these people again. And I just refuse. And I was just amazed at how many people were trying to do it. That's what got me. Like, the flying monkeys can come in singular attacks, or they can come in packs. But, as I said before, if you are an awesome individual and you are doing big things with yourself, things that show growth and beauty and intelligence and maturity, these flying monkeys can only go so far. And then they'll try to suck up to you too, right? Because they're like, well, the narcissistic person is kind of powerful, but this person who kind of got away from their influence, they're doing kind of cool too. And I don't want them to leave me behind either. So then you actually do see this sphere of influence, aka the flying monkey, or ease, plural, try to kiss up to you too. So then it's basically a battle of like, who has the bigger influence. So that's just my take on it, because I've been seeing this in the past couple of months, especially during COVID. And it's been shocking me that these people who I thought were on the narcissist side have been coming around and trying to basically make me make up with them. And then when I refuse to do so, then they still hang around, but they hang around and they kiss up to me. So that's my take. Hopefully it helps you. I hope you have a lovely day, and stay well, Internet.